Does your role as an advisor end after a claim has been settled? My mission is to show up with a check when my clients and their families need it the most. I'm one of the most important calls made when a client of mine passes away. My job is to show up with a check for the dependents, no matter what. In the life cycle of serving a client, this is really one of the most critical or crucial moments. Every advisor has their own philosophy and approach to dealing with the claim settlement process. You could do what is required by law. Get the insurer to settle the claim. There's nothing wrong with that. You kept your word as an advisor and did what was expected of you. Or you could choose to go beyond that. You could go beyond just that check and show up for the family if they need support, advice, or anything else in what is typically a difficult phase for them. This support could extend for months or even years after your client passes away. So the question is, would you choose to maintain that lifetime relationship even though the individual that began that relationship with you is no longer there? Some advisors would think, well, what's in it for me? Let me explain this with a case study. I've served as Bashir Isa's financial and life insurance advisor since 2008. Bashir was the sole breadwinner in his family, ensuring that his family's house mortgage, education bills, and lifestyle were all taken care of. His initial goal was to put together savings and investment propositions that could help him finance the college education fees for his kids. Over time, our relationship evolved, and Bashir purchased a $1.2 million life insurance policy for himself. He started to share more about all his other investments, and in the last 13 years of our relationship, we got to a point where about 80% of his assets were managed by me. Even though we discussed the family's finances, my main point of contact was Bashir. His wife Amira had been a homemaker and rarely joined discussions about managing the family finances. A couple of months before Bashir died, he shared with me a fear. If he weren't around any longer, his wife and kids would not know how to manage the large chunk of assets that they would receive. We discussed a few ways he could bring Amira into these discussions, but Bashir didn't get around to doing so much about it. Sadly, Bashir passed away in 2021. In my conversations with Amira, while settling his claims, I learned she was clueless about the investments, the assets, and the life insurance. I expected this. It was as Bashir predicted. She was daunted by the task of understanding and managing the family's money. My role in sales is to sell. My role as an advisor is to ensure that the claim is settled and Amira receives the money. The payout is legally and officially the end of my service. But in the life insurance and financial services industry, you promise to deliver on a proposition when the client themselves is no longer around. As a proponent of lifetime relationships, where does that responsibility or promise of mine end? Does it just end with me handing over the check despite knowing Amira didn't know how to manage the money? My conscience, moral compass, and values as a long game service provider didn't allow me to step away after I did my obligatory job. I sat down with Amira to talk to her about various options and explain to her that some of Bashir's assets were still under management with me, and we could keep them that way. My goal was to ensure that she understood Bashir's intentions with the money and how she could use that money to provide her a regular income to sustain the family lifelong without needing to begin any form of work or career. I may have no financial gain from doing this job. So, what's in it for me? Knowing I stood by my values. I value lifelong relationships and the non-transactional human connections I form with my clients and their families. Given that in most cases, your client's family members may not have been privy to the conversation and intentions of the policyholder, where do your responsibilities as an advisor stop? Do you go beyond the claim